Welcome to this lecture on Bohr's theory and its limitations. Imagine walking up a flight of stairs. You can stand firmly on the first step or the second step, but you absolutely cannot hover in the empty air between them. This simple idea of allowed steps is the secret to understanding how atoms work. Today, we are going to explore how Niels Bohr used this concept to solve a massive mystery in physics, how we can calculate the exact size and energy of an atom, and ultimately, where this groundbreaking theory falls short. To begin, we must understand why the old model of the atom was failing. According to classical physics, an orbiting electron should constantly lose energy and crash into the nucleus in a fraction of a second. Since matter exists, this was clearly wrong. Niels Bohr solved this by introducing a radical new rule. He proposed that electrons revolve around the positively charged nucleus in fixed circular paths called stationary orbits. The word stationary does not mean the electron is standing still. It means the energy of the electron in that orbit is constant. Furthermore, Bohr introduced the concept of quantization. This means that properties of the electron can only have specific, discrete values, much like whole numbers, rather than a continuous sliding scale. Now that we understand the staircase concept, let us look at the mathematical rule that defines these steps. Bohr stated that the angular momentum of the electron, which measures its rotational motion, must be an exact multiple of a specific constant. In this formula, m is the mass of the electron, v is its velocity, and r is the radius of the orbit. Together, m times v times r is the angular momentum. On the right side, n is an integer, like 1, 2, or 3, known as the principal quantum number, representing the orbit number. Finally, h is Planck's constant. Physically, as the orbit number n increases, the angular momentum increases in discrete jumps. It cannot take any random value. This quantization rule leads us to Bohr's third postulate, which explains how atoms interact with light. If an electron is stuck in a fixed orbit, how does it ever move? An electron can jump to a higher orbit, but only if it absorbs exactly the right amount of energy to bridge the gap between the steps. Conversely, it can drop to a lower orbit by spitting out that exact same amount of energy. This emitted energy takes the form of a light particle called a photon. Because the steps have fixed energy gaps, the atoms emit very specific colors of light. A large gap produces high-energy blue or ultraviolet light, while a small gap produces lower-energy red or infrared light. To calculate exactly what color of light is produced, we use the photon energy equation. Conceptually, this formula simply states that the energy of the light matches the energy difference between the two orbits. Here, delta E is the change in energy. E2 and E1 are the energies of the higher and lower orbits respectively. On the right side, h is Planck's constant and the Greek letter nu represents the frequency of the light. Physically, if the energy difference between E2 and E1 increases, the frequency of the emitted light must also increase. This direct relationship is why different elements, which have different staircase spacings, emit entirely different and unique colors of light. Before we move on to calculating distances, let us see this energy transition with a concrete visual. Here you are looking at a classic diagram of the Bohr model. At the center, we have the positively charged nucleus. Surrounding it are the fixed circular orbits, labeled n equals 1, 2, and 3. Notice the electron on the third orbit? When it drops down to a lower energy level, it cannot hold on to that extra energy. The wavy arrow shows that exact energy difference being emitted as a photon of light. The energy of this photon is exactly equal to Planck's constant times its frequency. This diagram perfectly illustrates how atoms produce specific colors of light. Now that we understand how electrons jump between orbits, let us figure out exactly how large these orbits are. To find the exact distance from the nucleus to the electron, which is the radius of the orbit, we need to balance two opposing forces. Imagine swinging a ball on a string. The string pulls the ball inward, while the ball's speed tries to fling it outward. In the atom, the inward pull is the electrostatic force of attraction between the positive nucleus and the negative electron. The outward tendency is represented by the centripetal force, required to keep any object moving in a circle. For the orbit to be stable and fixed, these two forces must be perfectly equal. By balancing those forces, which we will prove shortly, we arrive at a beautifully simple numerical formula for the radius. In this equation, r sub n is the radius of the nth orbit, measured in angstroms, which is 1/10 billionth of a meter. The variable n is the orbit number and z is the atomic number, representing the number of protons in the nucleus. The number 0.529 is a constant derived from fundamental physics values. Physically, this formula shows that as the orbit number n increases, the radius increases dramatically because it is proportional to n squared. Conversely, if the atomic number z increases, the stronger positive charge pulls the orbits closer, decreasing the radius. Before we look at the proof, let us see this formula in action with a concrete example. Suppose we want to find the exact distance from the nucleus to the electron when it is in the second orbit of a hydrogen atom. First, we state clearly what is given. Because it is a hydrogen atom, we know the atomic number Z equals 1. We are looking for the second energy level, so the principal quantum number n equals 2. We will use our simplified numerical formula for the Bohr radius to solve this. By writing down the formula first, we ensure we know exactly where to plug in our values for n and z in the next step. Continuing with our calculation, we now substitute n equals 2 and z equals 1 into our working formula. We square the orbit number in the numerator, which gives us 4. Finally, we multiply the Bohr radius constant 0.529 by 4 to get the final radius. The final answer is 2.116 angstroms. Physically, this means that when the hydrogen electron jumps from the first step to the second step, it moves roughly 4 times further away from the nucleus. This rapid expansion shows just how much empty space exists inside an atom as you move to higher energy levels. Now that we have successfully used the radius formula, let us understand exactly where it comes from. To find the theoretical distance, we must balance the two opposing forces we discussed earlier. We set the centripetal force on the left equal to Coulomb's law for electrostatic force on the right. In this equation, epsilon 0 is the permittivity of free space and E is the fundamental charge. To clean this up, we multiply both sides by the radius r. This cancels 1 r from the denominator on both sides, leaving us with a simplified equation for mass times velocity squared. We will need to eliminate this velocity term to solve for the radius. To get rid of the velocity term, we bring in Bohr's quantization rule for angular momentum, which we saw earlier. We rearrange that rule to solve for velocity by dividing both sides by mass and radius. Because our force balance equation contains a velocity squared term, we must square this entire new velocity equation. This gives us v squared equals n squared times h squared divided by 4 pi squared m squared r squared. By doing this, we have expressed the unknown velocity entirely in terms of known constants and the radius. This sets us up perfectly for the final substitution step. Continuing with our derivation, we now substitute this new expression for velocity squared back into our simplified force balance equation. This brilliant move replaces the unknown velocity with terms we already know. Next, we clean up the algebra. We cancel one mass from the numerator and denominator on the left side, and we cancel one radius from the denominators on both sides. Finally, we rearrange the entire equation to isolate the radius completely on one side. This gives us the final theoretical result for the radius of the nth orbit. When you plug in the standard numerical values for all these constants, it simplifies beautifully into the easy-to-use formula we applied earlier. Now that we know exactly where the electron is located, we need to find out how much energy it possesses in that orbit. The total energy of an electron is simply the sum of its kinetic energy and its potential energy. The kinetic energy comes from its high-speed motion around the nucleus. The potential energy comes from its position, specifically the electrostatic attraction between the negative electron and the positive nucleus. Because they attract each other, this potential energy is negative. Ultimately, the total energy will also be negative. This negative sign is incredibly important. It physically means the electron is trapped or bound by the nucleus and cannot escape without added energy. Just like with the radius, we can derive an exact theoretical formula for energy and plug in all the constants to get a much simpler numerical version. In this practical formula, E sub n is the energy of the nth orbit, measured in electron volts, which is a tiny unit of energy perfect for atoms. Z is the atomic number and n is the orbit number. Notice the negative sign in front of the 13.6. Physically, as the orbit number n increases, the fraction becomes smaller. But because of the negative sign, the total energy actually becomes less negative, meaning it increases towards zero. This proves that outer orbits have higher energy than inner orbits. Let us apply this energy formula to a real problem. We want to calculate exactly how much energy it takes to force an electron to jump up the atomic staircase, specifically from the first orbit to the second orbit in a hydrogen atom. Our strategy is to calculate the energy of the first orbit, then the second orbit, and find the difference. For hydrogen, Z equals 1. First, we find the energy of the ground state, where N equals 1. Plugging these into our formula, we get negative 13.6 times 1 squared over 1 squared. This simplifies directly to negative 13.6 electron volts, which is the lowest possible energy state. Next, we calculate the energy of the second orbit. The atomic number Z is still 1, but now the orbit number N is 2. We substitute these into the formula, giving us negative 13.6 times 1 squared divided by 2 squared. We square the 2 in the denominator to get 4. Then we simply divide negative 13.6 by 4. This gives us an energy of negative 3.4 electron volts for the second orbit. Notice that negative 3.4 is a larger number than negative 13.6, confirming that the electron gains energy as it moves outward. Now that we have the energies of both steps in electron volts, we can find the final answer. To find the required energy for the jump, we subtract the initial ground state energy from the final second orbit energy. We substitute our calculated values into the difference equation, being very careful with the negative signs. Subtracting negative 13.6 is the same as adding positive 13.6. The result is exactly 10.2 electron volts. Physically, this means you must hit the hydrogen atom with exactly 10.2 electron volts of energy to make the electron jump. If you provide 10.1 or 10.3, the electron will ignore it completely. So we have proven that the energy formula works in practice. This brings us to how it is derived. We start with the basic physics principle that total energy equals kinetic plus potential energy. From our earlier force balance equation, we know that mass times velocity squared equals the electrostatic force. Since kinetic energy is half mass times velocity squared, it is exactly half of that electrostatic expression. The potential energy is the standard electrostatic energy between opposite charges, which makes it negative. Notice that the potential energy is exactly twice as large as the kinetic energy. When we add them together, the result will be negative. Adding the kinetic and potential energies gives us a total energy expression in terms of the radius r. However, to make this formula truly useful, we need it in terms of constants and the orbit number. We do this by substituting the massive expression for the radius that we derived in the previous section directly into this energy equation. By flipping the fraction in the denominator and multiplying everything out, we arrive at the final, complete theoretical formula for the energy of an electron. Just like with the radius, plugging in the standard values for mass, charge, and Planck's constant yields the negative 13.6 formula we used in our example. While Bohr's model was a massive breakthrough, it was not perfect. Think of it like the first mobile phone. Revolutionary, but missing modern features. The biggest limitation was that Bohr's math only worked perfectly for atoms with exactly one electron. The moment you added a second electron, repulsive forces ruined the simple circular orbits. Furthermore, it could not explain why single spectral lines were actually made of multiple fine lines. It also failed to explain how atoms behave in magnetic fields, known as the Zeeman effect. Finally, by claiming the electron was in a precise orbit with a precise speed, it directly violated Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, which states you cannot know both simultaneously. Despite its flaws, Bohr's theory remains one of the most important milestones in science. It served as the crucial bridge between classical physics and the bizarre rules of quantum mechanics. By introducing quantized energy levels, Bohr laid the foundation for understanding how chemical bonds form. In the real world, these principles are at work all around you. When you see a bright red neon sign, you are watching electrons being excited by electricity and dropping back down, emitting specific colors just as Bohr predicted. The lasers used in eye surgery and even the distinct colors of fireworks in the sky rely entirely on controlling these exact electron jumps between specific energy levels. To summarize our journey today, Bohr revolutionized our understanding by proving that electrons travel in fixed, quantized orbits around the nucleus. By balancing forces and applying the rule of quantized angular momentum, we successfully calculated the exact radius and energy of these orbits. We also saw that atoms emit or absorb specific colors of light only when electrons jump between these fixed steps. While the model ultimately failed to explain multi-electron atoms and the wave nature of electrons, its core concept of discrete energy levels remains the absolute foundation of modern quantum chemistry. You now have a solid understanding of how the atomic staircase works.